In this video, I'm going to explain how inbox providers decide which emails go in the trash and which ones go in the inbox. And if you use email to communicate with prospects or customers, you've probably run into some email deliverability issues at some point, and it can be super frustrating. But if you know exactly what inbox providers are looking for, it becomes a lot easier to look a lot more like good mail and less like bad mail. It turns out there are actually only 5 things that inbox providers can look at in order to judge your emails and determine where it ends up. And we call these 5 things your reputation chain. They are the content within your emails, which includes the domains that you promote, how much your recipients have engaged with your emails in the past, the email address you're mailing from, the domain that's sending your email, and ideally you'll want to set up a custom return path for this, which we're going to cover in more detail later, and finally your IP address. These are the 5 factors that inbox providers use to determine whether your emails should land in the inbox or go to the spam folder. I'm going to walk through each one and explain what you can do to ensure your emails look more like the good kind and less like the bad kind. At the end, I'll let you know where to get personalized support for all of this if you have any more questions. Okay, here we go. Let's begin with the first link in your reputation chain, which is your email content and promoted domains. This is referring to all the words and links you use in the body of your emails, and it's one of the more straightforward ways to boost your deliverability. It's pretty easy for inbox providers to decide that certain types of email content are likely spam. For example, topics like losing weight and making money. This makes it hard for legitimate folks in those kinds of industries to get good delivery rates, but that's just the way it is. Try to figure out ways to talk about your subject without suspicious language in your emails. Instead, you can opt to keep that kind of content on your website. So, obviously the words in your emails count, but that's just one part of email content. Here's the more important part. The URLs you promote or link to will carry their own reputations as well. That means that if you send an email with a link that spammy emails have also used in the past, inbox providers will probably consider your email to be spammy too, even though those emails were sent by different people. That's why, for example, affiliate marketing can be really tricky. Let's say you have a network of affiliate partners, each promoting your URL to one of their lists. It only can take one sender with bad mailing practices to snag the attention of all the inbox providers and get everyone marked as spam. Then everyone else's emails with the same URL can end up in the spam folder as well, which is obviously not ideal. But now that you know all of this, you can tweak your email content to avoid running into these kinds of issues. We recommend following these 10 tips. First, always include a plain text version of your email. Sometimes spam blockers will block your email from the inbox if the plain text and designed versions of the message don't match. This is automatic using our simple and quick mail editors, but with Ontramail and HTML emails, you can control the text content separately. We do make it easy though. You can simply click the Copy from HTML button after creating your message. You'll also want to make sure that every link in your message is either hyperlinked text or connected to a button, but not pasted into your content as a raw URL. Spammers have been known to hyperlink their spammy websites behind a URL that seems innocent at first glance. So inbox providers tend to peg emails with raw links as bad mail nowadays. You can still promote legitimate URLs as hyperlinks or buttons. But if you do, don't repeat the link more than twice in one message. It's best to keep your formatting consistent through your email as well. In other words, don't switch between bold, underlined, and normal text a lot, because inconsistent style is typically marked as spam as well. Even though it can be tempting, don't use swipe copy in your emails. Swipe copy is sample copy written for advertising and sales letters that spammers copy and paste word for word. Once they've done that, they've ruined the reputation for that specific copy, so play it safe and write your own emails. Next, you may use URL shorteners for social media, but don't use them in your emails since a lot of spammers do this and those domains carry a reputation, and that's usually not a good thing. If you're using images, make sure you have a good ratio of 20% images and 80% text in your emails. Since spammers like to hide their links in images, spam filters tend to block image-only emails. You'll want to make sure your emails contain at least 500 characters to avoid looking like a typical spam email, which often is just a few sentences and a link. When writing your subject lines and pre-headers, don't use spam-triggering words. Some of them are obvious, things like make millions or a string of dollar signs, but others like call now or amazing might also catch the spam filter even if they seem harmless. Moderation is the name of the game here. Once you've written your email and followed these tips, test the message before sending it. You can use this Send Test Email button in your message editor, or create a contact to manually send the email to yourself. One more thing before we move on. It's best not to use the Ontraport shared domains or any other shared domains in your emails. This includes the tracking URLs that email providers like Ontraport use by default to see who's clicking what. Instead, use your own custom domain so that all the links in your emails are to URLs that you alone control. This is a really important part of owning your reputation chain, and it'll come up a few more times throughout this video. We've talked already about how to set up your own custom domain in the Getting Started course, so if you need a refresher, check that out. All right, that's the first link in your reputation chain. Next, let's talk about your historic engagement metrics. Your recipient's history of opening, reading, and clicking on your emails have a major impact on your delivery. To improve this, only send emails that people want to read, and only send those emails to people who want to read them. One of the very most important ways to keep engagement high is to always use good list management practices. And this means using only permission-based lead generation and never sending email to anyone who didn't specifically opt in to receive it. It also means you'll only want to send high-quality, interesting content and stop sending emails to people who never engage. If they don't want your content, don't take it personally, just remove them from your list and move on. There are templated automations in the Ontraport marketplace that can make it easy to stop sending to unengaged contacts automatically. If you want more details about this, check out our email standards article in the support center. So that's how your historic engagement metrics work. Let's move on to the third link in your chain, which is the send from address. Your send from address is the email address you chose in the send from field for each email editor. We don't allow you to send from a free mail address like Yahoo or Gmail because it's frankly just a terrible idea. But by default, your emails will come from our shared domain like entremail.com. Instead, build your own good reputation by sending from your own custom domain. That way, you'll have 100% control over your reputation without being affected by everyone else who mails with Ontraport. If you're sending from a shared domain like Ontramail, some inbox providers won't sift through every email to figure out which ones are yours. Instead, they may lump you in with everyone else and judge everyone's mailing practices together. Even if you do everything right, that one dude who spams his list with a get-rich-quick scheme could mess up your delivery rates as well. If, however, you use a custom domain and a unique send from address, your sender reputation will be based on your mailing practices, and no one outside of you can influence it. To change your default send from address in the app, just go to the administration info and then click here to check out the email from address setup. And that's it for your send from address. Now let's talk about return path and authentication, which is the fourth link in your reputation chain. Once you have your send from address squared away, you'll want to set up your own custom envelope sending domain, which is also known as a return path. This requires a little more setup, and you'll need SPF and DKIM records configured with your domain registrar, but it's definitely worth it. Again, this is covered in our Setting Up Your Custom Domain video in the Getting Started course, so make sure to get this step complete. And that leaves us with the fifth and final link in your reputation chain, which is your IP address. An IP address is a number assigned to every device that's connected to the internet. Think about the devices you own: laptop, cell phone, maybe a smart TV with internet access. Each of these devices has its own IP address. Our servers that send email also have IP addresses. Email providers like to look at the sender reputation of each IP address when they pick out good mail from bad. So if you share an IP address with senders who have bad mailing practices, that could do some damage to your own deliverability. Now you can use Ontraport's shared IP addresses, which we monitor carefully, but if you email on a regular basis and send at least 100,000 emails per year, getting your own IP address and building your own reputation is a really good idea. Keep in mind, if you don't send a huge volume of mail, you probably won't need to mess around with this. Shared IP addresses are totally fine for most people, and they're really one of the least important aspects of your personal reputation chain these days. So don't worry about this part unless you've done the first 4 things we've gone over and you're still having issues. Okay, now for some final tips. If you do qualify for a private IP address, contact support to get the ball rolling, but keep in mind that there is a one-time fee of $500. Okay, so you understand the reputation chain, you've set up your custom domain, you're using proper permission-based list management, you're sending high-quality, relevant emails to people who expect it and want it, and you're not sending emails to really old addresses. If you still think you're having a problem, what can you do now? Well, fortunately, as an Ontraport customer, you have access to our Postmaster team, and there are a few different things that we can do for you. First, we can review everything we just talked about to make sure that what you think is taken care of is actually taken care of. This typically solves 90% of the issues that we see. We have a process for going through this with a fine-tooth comb, and our postmasters can walk you through that process. If this doesn't solve it, the next step is to identify if there really is a problem, and if so, where it is. In this case, we recommend a Seedlist testing. We offer this service to clients who are worried about their sending reputation and overall delivery. Here's how it works. First, we're going to give you a big list of email addresses to send mail to. Then, a third-party service goes in and checks where your emails landed, the inbox, the spam box, or nowhere at all. This helps us figure out if there's a serious issue, and if so, where to start fixing it. Ontraport uses a third-party service called 250OK for this. If you're a heavy mailer, it's a good idea to run a Seedlist test every once in a while. It only costs between $10 and $20 to run a test, depending on how many you want to buy up front. And there you go. Now you know what determines the difference between good mail and bad mail, and you have everything you need to reach the inbox. For all this stuff, from delivery review to getting a Seedlist test set up, you'll want to reach out to Postmaster@Ontraport.com and we can help you out. This is our last video about messages. Up next, we're going to start learning about automations, which is one of the most powerful features inside of Ontraport.